Tonight, the Cleveland kidnapping suspect shows his face. Ariel Castro comes to court. Will prosecutors seek death?
This child kidnapper operated a torture chamber and private prison in the heart of our city.
We've learned more about the torture that the victims endured. Dean Reynolds is in Cleveland. One of the biggest bank heists ever didn't need a gun. John Miller on how thieves got away with $45 million. Repairing the heart. Old hearts get new life in a medical experiment. Dr. John LaPook has the story. And for the first time, Jessica Buchanan tells how SEAL Team 6 saved her after she was kidnapped by bandits for 93 days.
I figured they were going to rape me and then kill me.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. The suspect in the Cleveland kidnappings could be facing the death penalty. The county prosecutor said today that he may add aggravated murder to the charges that Ariel Castro is already facing. One of the victims told investigators that Castro violently forced her to miscarry each of the 5 times he made her pregnant. Castro made his first appearance in court today. The judge ordered him held on $8 million bond. Dean Reynolds was in the courtroom.
With his eyes on the floor and his hands in cuffs, the disheveled defendant listened as prosecutor Brian Murphy accused him of nightmarish conduct that lasted for a decade.
Today, the situation's turned, Your Honor. Mr. Castro stands before you a captive. The women are free to resume their lives that were interrupted, and also with the promise and the hope that justice will be served.
Ariel Castro faces 4 charges of kidnapping and 3 of rape and the brutal confinement of the young women, Michelle Knight, Gina DeJesus, Amanda Berry, and her 6-year-old daughter, all held as prisoners in his dingy home on Seymour Street. Officials say the 3 women were bound at times, starved, and sexually assaulted. The police report said Knight suffered 5 miscarriages brought on by beatings. County prosecutor Timothy McGinty said his office will consider seeking the death penalty.
This child kidnapper operated a torture chamber and private prison in the heart of our city. The horrific brutality and torture that the victims endured for a decade is beyond comprehension.
Under Ohio law, the unlawful termination of a pregnancy is considered aggravated murder. Castro is the lone suspect in this case now. He's been on suicide watch ever since his arrest Monday night at a fast food restaurant, which followed a tip to the cops by one of his captives. You can hear the women crying for joy on this police radio transmission of the rescue.
We found them. We found them.
We've learned the FBI discovered a lengthy note from Castro at his house. Written in 2004 and suicidal in tone, it's an admission of the kidnappings, a claim that he was abused as a child, and an acknowledgement he is a sexual predator. It also blamed the women for their own abduction, but he asks whatever money he has be donated to his victims after his death. So what was different about Monday night that resulted in the rescue of these women? Well, Scott, they told the police that their captor simply refused or declined or failed to lock that front door the way he always did when he went out, locking instead only the less sturdy storm door. Amanda Berry saw that, took a chance, and it paid off.
Dean, thanks very much. Federal prosecutors in New York today charged a gang of cyber thieves with robbing banks around the world of $45 million. Not by waving a gun in the face of a teller, but by swiping a bogus debit card in the slot of an ATM. John Miller is here to unravel the plot for us. John?
Well, the Secret Service says this is the most sophisticated plot of this kind they have ever seen. There are 7 men in custody, but investigators still don't know the identity of Mr. Big. On the afternoon of February 19th, 8 men waited at various locations near banks in Midtown Manhattan. They were waiting for messages from computer hackers, a list of stolen PIN numbers. That was their signal to start withdrawing money from ATMs. Loretta Lynch is the United States Attorney in Brooklyn.
They're told where to stand. They're told where to start. They're told you're going to hit as many ATMs as possible. Once they get those pins, they become a criminal flash mob.
The Secret Service alleges the 8 men were part of a global operation that has found a new way to steal cold, hard cash in staggering amounts. Prosecutors charge that Jose Reyes belonged to the New York cell. They say that Reyes began his trek, sweeping south down New York's Broadway, hitting ATM after ATM. When it was over, Reyes had stuffed $41,000 into his backpack. Investigators say the New York team that Reyes belonged to netted $2.4 million. Cells in 26 countries struck that day for a worldwide take of $40 million. That breaks down to $127,000 a minute. A smaller heist 2 months earlier had grabbed $5 million for a total of $45 million.
They use malware, they use spyware, they create programs. It can take them sometimes anywhere from 2 to 18 months to work out these very sophisticated programs.
Isn't this a stunning level of cyber sophistication?
It is.
Banks are targeted by hackers who then write programs to eliminate withdrawal limits on prepaid debit cards. The hackers then increase the account balances on those cards.
And they just go out and they collect the money. It's literally getting your money for free.
So, John, somewhere in the world there is, as you called him, a Mr. Big who coordinated all of this. But if he has street gangs gathering up this money, how does he know he's going to get his cut?
Well, there is no honor among thieves, and the federal prosecutor, Loretta Lynch, said Mr. Big and his hackers stay inside the bank system once they take it over and manipulate it, and they watch each one of these withdrawals and they track it down to the penny. So at the end, they know that the cashers, the guys who are pulling the money out on the street, they get 20%, but they also know exactly how much they're owed. And interestingly, in this case, the head of the New York cell was found murdered in the Dominican Republic, $100,000 in cash found near his body. So part of the investigation is, did that have anything to do with the split?
John, thanks very much. There is no greater threat to this country than heart disease. It is the leading cause of death, killing 600,000 Americans a year. So when Dr. John LaPook told us today that doctors may have discovered a fountain of youth for hearts, we wanted to know more.
Doctors Rich Lee and Amy Wagers may have discovered a new way of treating old, sick hearts. Make them young again.
The heart is a very key organ that experiences a decline in function as people age. And we wanted to understand how that decline in function arose and whether we might be able to intervene to stop it or reverse it.
During age-related heart failure, the heart grows larger as the muscle thickens and becomes stiff. That can cause blood to back up into the lungs, which can make it hard to breathe.
There has been a suspicion that there is a circulating hormone or some material that can reverse some of the aging process.
The Harvard team honed in on a hormone called GDF11, which declines with age in mice. The scientists took GDF11 from young, healthy mice and gave it to old mice with heart failure.
The heart is not known for being a regenerative organ. And so I actually secretly suspected that we would not see any effect in these experiments.
The results took Wagers and Lee by surprise.
When old mouse hearts are exposed to this hormone at the levels that young mice have, then their hearts go back quite dramatically to the appearance of the young mouse heart in just a few weeks.
This is the heart of a young mouse. This is the enlarged heart of an old mouse with heart failure. And this is the old mouse's heart after receiving GDF11. It's returned to a normal size.
This hormone does also exist in people. So the team's next step is to see if it has the same effect in humans and if there are any side effects. Clinical trials could start in 4 to 5 years.
Fascinating, John. Thank you. One of the most important relationships the United States has in the world is with Pakistan. The U.S. sends $2 billion in aid there each year. It is ground zero in the war on terror, and most Pakistanis aren't very happy about that. There's an election scheduled there on Saturday, and it would be the first time in Pakistani history that one elected government would replace another uninterrupted by a military coup. It is popular to be anti-American, and Elizabeth Palmer is covering a candidate who hopes that will make him prime minister.
This is the moment they were waiting for. Imran Khan greeted his supporters at his final political rally tonight, not in person, but by video link, battered and bandaged in a hospital bed. Khan's campaign took a dramatic turn on Tuesday night. As he was being raised to the stage on a forklift, he tumbled off backward, suffering spine, head, and rib injuries. You might think that would have ended his run. Not a bit. The sight of him in a neck brace actually galvanized voters, especially the young.
Why do you think Imran Khan is the right man for Pakistan?
He has done everything good for Pakistan, and he has the passion, he has the spirit, and he's the right man.
Khan's story is nothing like other politicians. A sports superstar, he captained Pakistan's cricket team to their only world championship in 1992. Handsome, rich, and a playboy, he mixed with celebrities like Princess Diana. Now Khan has entered politics. And this campaign has turned out to be the most violent in Pakistan's history, marked by deadly Taliban attacks.
It's this area up near the Afghan border that's seen a lot of the violence. Here in the city of Peshawar, just yesterday, 3 bombs went off and 2 more were defused just in time.
We walked the streets with a candidate running for Khan's party.
You're going to vote for Imran Khan?
Yes, definitely.
But we found Shaukat Yousafzai isn't worried he'll be targeted by the Taliban.
Where will we go?
Perhaps because Imran Khan supports negotiating with them.
You're also in favor of dialogue with the Taliban?
Yes, we are saying from the day one, the dialogue is the only solution.
Khan also strongly opposes U.S. drone strikes on Taliban militants, which makes the stakes in this election particularly high.
And Liz Palmer is joining us now in Islamabad. Liz, so much of America's war on terror is being fought in Pakistan with Pakistani consent. How would that be affected if Khan does well?
He could become a very influential presence in the parliament, and I think it's safe to say the tone of anti-American rhetoric would notch up considerably. He's said he's in favor of shooting down drones. Practically speaking, I think one of the first things we might see is American military having trouble getting permission to withdraw its equipment from Afghanistan through Pakistan.
An important route for the U.S. troops. Liz, thank you very much. An explosion at a fertilizer warehouse exposes a gaping hole in Homeland Security. And there's been a deadly accident today during training for the America's Cup when the CBS Evening News continues. There was a deadly accident today during training for the America's Cup races. A Swedish boat capsized in San Francisco Bay. All 13 sailors were rescued, but one of them has died. He's identified as Andrew Simpson of Great Britain, right there on the right. He won an Olympic gold medal in sailing in 2008. The tiny town of West Texas was devastated 3 weeks ago when ammonium nitrate blew up at a fertilizer storage facility. 14 people were killed and 200 were hurt. It turns out the federal government has no idea how many other warehouses may pose a danger. And Manuel Bojorquez looked into this.
The blast at the West Fertilizer Company left a crater more than 90 feet wide and was felt 70 miles away. Investigators are still sifting through the rubble to find what caused the fire that led to the ammonium nitrate explosion. Volunteer firefighter Robert Payne was just 35 yards away.
As soon as the blast went off, everything went blank. My boots were in one place and I was in another. In other words, I was blown out of my boots.
Were the firefighters aware of what was in there and how much of it?
Well, no, certainly not how much, that's for sure.
The fertilizer ammonium nitrate was the main ingredient in the 1995 Oklahoma City attack. The Department of Homeland Security is supposed to track and inspect facilities that have more than 2,000 pounds of the chemical. West Fertilizer had filed paperwork with the state of Texas that said it was capable of storing more than 500,000 pounds. But Homeland Security tells us it didn't know the facility existed. That's because federal law leaves it up to businesses to tell Homeland Security if they have large amounts of ammonium nitrate. West Fertilizer did not do that.
We need a change in the law.
California Congressman Henry Waxman is asking the Obama administration to find ways to better track dangerous chemicals at businesses such as West Fertilizer.
I think that the whole system has failed when we have not regulated a facility with this level of dangerous chemicals that can cause an explosion and a fire.
How many facilities pose the same threat? We don't know. Some, like West, are unknown to the Department of Homeland Security. Others haven't been inspected. Congress's accounting office, known as the GAO, says it will take 8 to 10 years for Homeland Security to inspect and review the facilities it does know about.
We need to be informed about that, absolutely. I don't want this to happen to any other community.
5 of Robert Payne's friends died in the explosion. It will be at least 2 more weeks until investigators finish their work here. Manuel Bojorquez, CBS News, West Texas.
Jessica Buchanan, rescued by Navy SEALs, tells her story for the first time next. For the first time, Jessica Buchanan has told us how she was rescued in a secret mission by the Navy's SEAL Team 6. In 2011, Buchanan was an American aid worker in Somalia. In an interview for 60 Minutes, she told us that she began 93 days as a hostage when her car was stopped by bandits in a place she calls hell.
We stopped very abruptly, like so abruptly that I felt like everybody just fall forward. And then I start hearing all of this pounding on the windows and the windshield and all this shouting in Somali. And there's a man standing there screaming. And he has an AK-47 and he's shouting and he's pointing it at us. And then he climbs into the car next to me and he points an AK in my face. And they're hyped up like they're on speed. And all of a sudden we just take off. The driver just takes off and we just start slamming all over the place down these camel tracks.
What did you think they were going to do?
I figured they were going to rape me and then kill me. And I just keep thinking, this can't be the end. This can't be the end of my life. I'm only 32 years old. I haven't had any children yet.
Tomorrow on this broadcast, Jessica Buchanan will tell us how SEAL Team 6 swooped in last year to kill the bandits and take her home. We'll have the entire interview for you on 60 Minutes this Sunday at 7, 6 Central. Prince Harry began his U.S. visit today at the Capitol. He and Senator John McCain toured an exhibit on the devastating effects of landmines, a cause championed by Harry's late mother, Princess Diana. Later at the White House, the Prince joined Michelle Obama and Jill Biden, helping military kids make Mother's Day cards. Are 2 heads better than 1? A school gives that old saying a new test. Next.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Safelite Auto Glass.
We end tonight with a crash course in how to fix a troubled school. The problem was too many kids with behavior problems. As John Blackstone reports, the answer was to double down.
At Claremont Middle School in Oakland, California, the principal, Mr. Richardson,
good morning,
seems to be everywhere.
How you doing, Nicole? Good to see you. Didn't she do an excellent job?
Saying hello to everybody.
What's going on, Tyreek? How you doing? You have a game today? Good to see you. Have a beautiful day.
He's so busy, you might think there are 2 Mr. Richardsons. And you'd be right. There's twice as many principals in this school as many schools, right? I mean, is it important in this job to have a sense of humor?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Since twin brothers Ronald and Reginald Richardson took over as co-principals here last year.
Good morning. How you doing?
Students are never quite sure which one has an eye on them.
Hey, I think you talked to the other Mr. Richardson. Check in with Mr. Richardson.
It often takes 2 to keep order here. In Oakland, poverty, crime, and gang violence are persistent problems that can spill over into the schoolyard.
Mr. Richardson to Mr. Richardson.
No,
Calm down.
Here, a playground dispute can quickly escalate to real trouble.
You want to find out? Let's go.
In 2011, before the Richardsons arrived, 35% of Claremont students were suspended for part of the year. This year, suspensions have dropped to just 7%, and the principal's office no longer has a revolving door.
Yeah, there you go.
If 4 principals came and went in a year, I think this was a pretty tough place to work.
Right, and you know what? It was an opportunity. We didn't see it as a challenge. We saw it as an opportunity coming in.
Ian Lesser teaches science at Claremont.
It doesn't really matter who you're talking to because you're going to get the same message. They're interchangeable people, really.
The twins have focused on creating an atmosphere of respect.
Good to see you. I like this jacket. It's really nice.
They wear coats and ties every day and call their students scholars.
These are amazing scholars.
Even on days when students run a bit wild,
come on now, don't make a scene.
The Richardsons find teachable moments in the midst of chaos.
It's our jobs as educators and as adults to model and to support and to listen and to provide resources for those students. If you are committed to that child and you love that child and you're going to teach them, magical things happen.
At Claremont Middle School, there is no doubt that 2 is better than 1.
Okay, have a beautiful day, son.
John Blackston, CBS News, Oakland, California.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. For all of us at CBS News, all around the world, good night.